than I thought I could. And time doesn't tick in my ears like I thought it should. So I'm standing here today and saying, come what may. 'Cause I've been down, down below.
Each year, International thank you. Each year, International Women's Day highlights a theme that focuses on the key challenge or goal affecting women around the world. And there is also a pose, and it's Give to Gain this year. And you've probably seen some of them on television, on Facebook. And every year there's a different pose with a different theme. And the Give to Gain, we're talking about just supporting other people as a way of giving, making opportunities for other people, visibility, knowledge, recognition, guidance, resources, and all is a voice that benefits everyone. So, and these, I have to, real quick, this is my husband Dirk, and I know this is when we're celebrating Women's Day, but I have to thank him every year because he has been very helpful, and I couldn't have done it without him.
He's also our mayor.
Yes. And also there's some cards on the table that say with gratitude, and they're for you. Pick someone who made a difference in your life and write them a note and give it to them. And also I want to make sure everybody signed in and put your name in for a drawing. And at the end, when you get ready to leave, your name, if you won one of the gifts, your name will be right in front of the gift. So we'll wait till then.
On the tag on the bag.
Yeah, tag on the bag.
Tag on the bag.
Okay, and we had 24, actually I think maybe 25. Is it 25? Either business owned by women or run by women. And so they're absolutely wonderful gifts. The women in Perry that have businesses, they just bring a lot of charm and energy to Perry. So we're very thankful for every year them helping. Okay, so I'm going to get away from the microphone and I'm going to introduce Cynthia Naranjo. And she is a WHO 13 News producer and multi-skilled journalist and a Perry girl. And she's giving back to her community. Please.
Good morning. Thank you, Carol, for that lovely introduction. Thank you. We're good? All right. Well, good morning, everyone. As Carol said, excuse me, my name is Cynthia Naranjo, and I'm from Perry, graduating in 2017. So it's so nice to be back in my community, to be here with amazing, incredible women. I'm so proud to see my teachers here. It makes me feel good to represent just being part of the community and being a former student, being up here and giving back. So as Carol mentioned, it's the 9th year of International Women's Day celebration, and from a small gathering in Carol's home to now the Hotel Patti, the event has grown tremendously over the years. So today is all about celebrating women in our community and their contributions and their achievements. So thank you so much, Carol. Let's give Carol a round of applause. So I know we talk about achievements and they can be small, they can be big, but I want you to think about something. I know it's hard, even if it's just a job or just getting up every morning, just think about it and just reflect. I want you to just acknowledge it and celebrate it, even if it's just showing up for yourself. So I know that it's challenging to think about a small win or a big win, but it's all yours to celebrate. So with that, I want to talk about wins. As Carol mentioned, we have some lovely door prizes, and it's all made possible by a group of people and businesses here in Des Moines, or rather in Perry. Betsy Peterson Designs, Harbor Roses, Harbor Rose Floor and Design, Century Farms Books and Brews, The Scottish Fox, Perry Flowers by Donna Jean, Backwards Boutique, Mary Rose Collective, Perry Paw Spa, It's Hair, The Hangout Diner, Sips on Second, BB Nails, Perry, Carnegie Library Museum, Paradise Nails, Perry Beauty, Yummy's Donut Palace, Scooter's Coffee, Halo Hair Salon, Sisters Beauty Salon, Purple Star Studio, The Farm Store and Bakery. Eye Care Associates, Nancy Tice, Perry Grand Theater, Fields of Heather Flower Farm. Thank you so much for your wonderful contributions. This year we're going to be hearing from 4 successful and talented women. They represent diversity of experiences and perspective. And I'm going to start with the talented Catherine Serving Fox, a Downbeat Award-winning artist. She played on the Grammy-nominated track All My Tomorrows with Kate McGarry. She is a voting member of the Recording Academy. She has performed alongside a well-known artist, including the Eagles, the Beach Boys, and Gloria Estefan. She has performed with the Weary Ramblers with other singers and songwriters around the Midwest. She's also nominated for the Musician Award for the Midwest Music Award. Let's give Catherine a warm welcome.
Well, I'm very familiar with mic stands, so I'm going to mess with this quite a lot. Oh, look at that. Well, that worked well. Maybe I won't mess with it. Just a little bit. I'm a little tall. That'll work. All right. Well, hi, y'all. It is such a pleasure to be here. And that's going to drive me nuts, too. Okay, this is better. Admittedly, I'm usually in a group of men. I'm just going to be really honest with you. I have no problem with that. I actually became fairly comfortable with the male dynamic growing up because my dad wanted me to be the son he'd never had. So I was fixing cars and doing all the plumbing and electrical work in our house. And so honestly, it's such a joy to be able to be in a room full of women and men that support women. So what an honor to be here. So if I'm being honest, I do have notes here, and I'm going to be looking down sometimes because I don't do this sort of thing very often. I tell a lot of stories at the mic and sing songs, but it's very different when you put the instrument to the side for a second. So that was a very nice introduction, thank you. I am 4 or 5 different things in my career. I'm a songwriter, I'm a teacher, I'm a piano tuner, I'm a recording artist, and I'm a performer. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about each of those things and how I feel like all of those do fit this theme of give to gain. But I'll start with my childhood a little bit so you can have a little bit of background. Both my parents are retired high school choir directors. My mom was an opera singer. My dad was a piano tuner, and he was also a multi-instrumentalist. I had a bunch of family members that were opera singers and classical pianists, and so at age 5 I started piano lessons, and 7 I started viola lessons, and just became completely obsessed with music and with the craft, and at a certain point was practicing probably 8 hours a day somehow. I don't know how I was doing that, but probably because I didn't have any friends. definitely because I didn't have any friends. But it was an obsession to have perfection in our family as well, but also just a deep desire to be able to express yourself, because we were told we couldn't cry. So instead of crying, we put our emotions through the music. But anyway, so I did a youth symphony rehearsal starting in middle school, was going to Madison, Wisconsin. I grew up in Janesville, Wisconsin. Okay. And I was going to Madison, Wisconsin every weekend. I started studying with a viola professor at UW-Madison when I was a sophomore in college, in high school. And then I had to decide when I was a senior what I was going to do with my training. And I decided that I wanted to not die, so I didn't double major in piano and viola. Instead, I decided to focus on viola. So I did undergraduate and master's degrees in viola, classical viola performance. And then I went way off the deep end, and I started touring with a group called Barrage, which is kind of like Celtic Women, if anyone knows what that is. Singing, dancing, playing, Britney Spears mics, fully choreographed show. And then after that, I moved to Iowa. Had toured internationally and was living in Europe for a lot of that time, and then got married and moved to Iowa and started teaching full time, which is a pretty big shift, as you can imagine, I suppose. But it's always been a mindset in my family to figure out how we can best serve our communities. My parents are both conductors of various community orchestras and choirs. They've been doing it for 30 plus years. And so I walked into the Creston community, which is where I'm based now, and I looked around and I was like, okay, what's missing here? They don't have a string program. I'm largely a string player. They call me a utility player is what it is. So I play a bunch of different string instruments, predominantly fiddle and viola, but I also play piano, of course, as I had said before. And so I looked around and said, okay, there's no string program, there are no string teachers. I guess I should probably do that. I need to fill that void. And then about a year in, I looked around again and was like, wow, there are no piano tuners here. And was like, well, okay, all right. So I called my dad and I said, well, I grew up my whole childhood watching what you do, so I guess maybe I'll start doing that. I don't know. So he came over and we spent a whole day working on pianos, and now I service all of Southwest Iowa. Somehow. I'm not sure how, because I'm on tour all the time, so it's quite tricky, the balancing act, but and then I kept looking around and it's like, okay, no one's doing string tracking. And by that I mean recording string parts for various artists for their original music in central Iowa and southwest Iowa. So I thought, okay, well maybe I can fill that void. So I keep looking for these puzzle pieces and hoping I can be that in the community. And it's not because I need it for my own ego. It's really because that's just how my heart and soul kind of connects with folks, and I want to feel like I can be something for everyone, which is kind of unhealthy, if we're being honest. Can only be so much as a human, right? But so I have a few stories about some of my experiences in each of these things that I do. And I realize I haven't touched on the songwriting or performing aspect yet, but I will. So in terms of teaching music lessons, I've taught at Southwestern Community College since 2017. And I started initially with very specific kind of private music lessons, but then it turned into musicianship lessons, as I call it. I would have students coming in and they realized that I could talk to them about pretty much anything, because I'm in the music industry full time. I and I want to serve them the best I can. So they would come in and I'd be like, okay, what do you want from me today? Instead of it being, did you learn your scales? There was a little bit of that too. But so I had a student that would come in and he would share his original music with me. And there was one lesson where we both realized that it was the last lesson of the semester, but we didn't realize it until about partway through. And he had been studying with me for 3 years. And he had not written any original music until we started working together. And so we looked at each other at one point because we both had the realization, didn't really even have to say it. And he ended up saying to me, Catherine, I realized and was thinking about the fact that I've been taking lessons with you for 3 years. And he started tearing up and sharing how important the lessons had been for him to be able to express himself and find his voice. And I think that's like the really powerful thing about being a teacher and serving students in your community. For me, music in a lot of ways my whole life has been one that I've been able to figure out how to express myself in ways that I couldn't in just regular conversation. It was impossible for me. I was so socially awkward, truly. I'm not a whole lot better now. That's why I have notes. I have an interesting story from tuning pianos. Anyone know where Grand River is? Yeah. So I was driving to Grand River and pulled up to this home, and there was in the driveway a sign engraved with the family name. And it was just a beautiful sign. And I was then greeted at the door by this really sweet woman named Rosemary. But also her dogs, her farm dogs. And so got inside and I got all set up and was finishing up her piano like about an hour and a half later. And as I always do with piano tuning clients, I asked her if she would sit down and play a song for me because I wanted to hear how the piano sounded, wanted her to be happy with it. It's kind of like if a plumber comes and fixes your toilet, you want to see that the toilet works, you know what I mean? And so she kindly declined, and I just asked her, okay, so what's your story? How long have you been playing piano? And she said that she had been playing most of her life, and that her husband really loved watching and hearing her play. Now, he wasn't there, okay? And so she ended up sharing with me. She said, today is the anniversary of my husband's passing. I wanted to get the piano tuned today so that I could play some songs for him. Yeah, right? So I held back many tears because I'm also a hopeless romantic. Oh man, that was just one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. And I just thought to myself how honored I was to be able to prepare that instrument for that moment for her. You know, giving to gain, right? Yeah. This theme, it just is roaring through me. So I wrote a song about that, but I don't even think I'm going to have time to play that little snippet like I thought I might. Okay, all right, hold on.
We're in charge.
All right, hold on.
We're making that. Would you like a drink of water? No. Okay.
I'll play a full song at the end that has nothing to do with this. But this is just to give you a taste. I write a lot of music that is certainly from my own life, but I'm highly inspired by all of you as well in the world. So this is just in the middle of the song, okay? Just to give you some context. I asked her if she'd like to sit and play a tune. Oh, it sure would put a smile on my face. Instead of a song, I heard a story about her true love leaving this place. She said
same since he's been gone. I'm not always sure how to go on, but I thought if our piano were in tune, I could play him a song or two. So that's kind of, thank you. The inspiration as a songwriter, I get to steal from these moments, which I'm really grateful for. I'm really grateful for mic stands that don't sink, but we'll keep working on that. So I record on people's records. I had said that before. Basically what that is there's a recording studio in Des Moines that I do a lot of work for, and if there's anyone that wants string playing, that's me. I get to do all that. So I've probably recorded on, I don't know, 500 plus albums, I would say. When I lived in Miami, I recorded, they said, with like Gloria Estefan, and there was a really cool album that I did that was a tribute to Nat King Cole as well. Gosh, why is his name escaping me right now? Doesn't matter, whatever. But all these experiences are really enjoyable for me because I get to walk into the studio and think, how do I serve the song the best that I can? It's not about me. I'm not going in there trying to show off and, you know, show them my whole arsenal. It's how do I serve the song? How do I serve the artist? How do I make their song come alive? Give to gain, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, yes, I'm a songwriter. I write about a lot of things. I write about love a lot, but it's not just romantic love. It's familial love, it's tragic love, loss, lots of loss. I find that it helps me really navigate emotions by being able to write. Perhaps some of you do journal entries or write poetry. Songwriting is what does it for me. I have a kind of interesting story about me and my partner, Chad Elliott. We're in the Weary Ramblers, if anyone's heard of that duo. So he and I were in Moline a few weeks ago, Moline, Illinois. We were playing some shows in the Quad Cities area. And we were staying in a hotel, and we looked at each other at one point, I swear, instantaneously, at the same time, we both said, we need to write a song for Eartha Mae. Now, you all don't know who Eartha Mae is, so I have to give you a little context. Eartha Mae is a wonderful human that started coming to our shows a couple years ago, and they had started transitioning. They had been married, had kids. They grew up in Red Oak in Montgomery County, and they had told us some about their story, about how difficult it was living an identity that was not their own growing up. They grew up on a farm, fairly conservative mindset family. I don't even mean politically, I just mean, you know what I mean. And we were just so inspired by their story and had seen that they had just randomly were going to go to a Moth storyteller event, and one of the storytellers backed out and they stepped in the day of to tell a story, which is wild. If anyone knows what the Moth is, it is a very reputable storytelling event. So you don't just step into that on the day of, but she did. And so, like I said, we both turned to each other that day and said, we need to write a song for Eartha Mae. At the same time. It's so strange, okay? So we started doing research and found some blog entries about Eartha, and we're looking back through posts and thinking about some of the stories they had told us, and started writing a song. And it just kind of flew out of us. Some of the lyrics we wrote down, all the memories I've kept inside, all these years that I've had to hide, but now I'm heading north, goodbye Montgomery County. One of the parts is, it's been a long time since I'd seen the farm, I never thought it could lose its charm. Anyway, so just to give you a little context. So
We wrote this song, we recorded a voice memo because otherwise we'll never remember any of the thousands of songs we write. And Chad turned to me and said, you should send that recording to Eartha Mae. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know about that. But then I agreed to it, and we sent it to them and just said, this is how we spent our morning. And they responded back and said, oh, you too, you had me in ugly sobs from the second I read the title to the last chord. What you don't know is that by the end of next week, I will drive the last tractor off the farm and spread my dad's ashes. I am speechless. Yeah, isn't that wild? So, Chad and I definitely think of ourselves as transmitters. We're transmitters of music, of messages, of our stories, of other people's stories. And those serendipitous moments just mean a lot to us, to feel like we're connecting that much with people that connect with our music. We want to serve all of you through what we do. I perform music for a living, along with the songwriting. People have said to us that they feel like they're falling in love when they hear our music, which is really wild. But then it did actually happen. There was a couple, a man and a woman, that started coming to our shows separately, and now they're in a relationship. So I'm like, all right. They're adorable. Anyway. There are people that have said that they've had a terrible week and that it brought them back to a peaceful place. This is not me gloating. I want to make this very clear. I'm not doing that. This is only for us validation that we're doing something right with the world, you know? So, and I think a big part of what it is for us as songwriters is that we, Chad and I both, are adamant about putting our vulnerability out on a platter for everyone. Because if we do it, then maybe you'll come into that world as well. And along with that is spreading a message of compassion and love and empathy, which is really lacking in our society. I feel that it is. We could make very large stances in our songs and make things very clear about our opinions, but what we try to do is spread that overall message because we think that's the core of the issue in our society. And Chad and I have been really lucky too to have awards happening and all that sort of stuff, but honestly it's not really about any of that for us. I said that to a crowd in Claremont, Iowa the other day. There was someone that had announced a bunch of awards that we had won, and I just said, look, yes, it's wonderful, but really, it's when we get to hear from anyone in the audience that a song that we played or wrote is almost like their journal entry of their life. That's what it is for us. When people feel that seen and that connected. I got one more quote, and then I'm gonna play a song for y'all, okay? Anyone ever heard of the Nadas? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Jason Malsmith was at a show of ours, a farm show, and he wrote this really beautiful quote. Chad and I were playing a tune called Barns on Fire, which we do at the end of all of our shows, and every night it's different. We're following I don't know, some spiritual connection, I suppose, when we do it, and we kind of just see where it's going to flow every night, which sounds terrifying and probably reckless, but it's amazing. If you want to know what that looks like, just come to one of our shows and you'll see what I mean. But so Jason wrote, "They were so adept at creating visualizations in song that I sometimes forgot where I was. I became so immersed in the songs that I momentarily became the character and was transported to that place and time. This is magic in its truest form. And then all of a sudden it happened. I became fully immersed in song. Like a trance, it all went away. I wasn't worrying about anything. I was hanging on every word. I was hanging on every note. My body became a sounding board for the resonance of the harmonies that Chad and Catherine were creating. They were creating harmonies not in a methodical way, but more like a natural vibration emanating from their souls, like it was a reflex that reacted to the instruments and words. This is not an over-dramatization. It is metaphysical, and it is real, and it is magic. And what that says to me, again, is maybe we're doing something right. Because we're just trying to serve everyone that's there. Thank you. And there's no ego in it for us at all. No ego in it for me. I'm just honored to be able to teach, to be able to fix all these Southwest Iowa pianos. Man, I don't know how long I can do that actually. My schedule's getting a little crazy, but to be able to play on people's songs, it's just an honor to be able to be a part of all of these things in my life. So I just want to say I'm really excited to speak to a room full of women here. Like I said before, honored to share space with you all, and I hope that you feel supported by me at every turn. Because I see you, and I see your light, and I see your strength. Yeah? I'm going to do a song of mine that I wrote after I almost died. That sounds like an over-dramatization, but it isn't. A couple years ago, I nearly bled to death. It was for a freak reason. It was a surgery I had had, and then I ended up having to have arteries cauterized and everything. It was really intense. But what I'll say is that the love of our supporters just the love of our supporters is the reason why I was able to get through all that emotionally. So by giving our songs, I was able to get back a lot of love and support. So this is called This House. Thank you again. This place falls apart on its own, 'cause it knows it should. And folks come around and stand where shadows once stood. And anger and tears sing louder than I once could. And fear of time has kept me from living a life like I should. So I'm standing here today and saying, come what may. 'Cause I've been down, down below, and no, 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 that's where I could go. But life is teaching me to say no to the hauntings today. Hope I have enough fuel left to nurse this fire, to smile on stage and pretend that I'm never tired, to never let my dreams be surrounded by my own barbed wire, to keep my hopeful heart full of romance and sing to the choirs. And I'm standing here today and saying, come what may. 'Cause I've been down, down below, and I know, no, no, that's where I could go. But life is teaching me to say no to the hauntings today. place falls apart on its own, 'cause it knows it should. And turns out the ghosts were a shadow of where I once stood. And now I'm singing louder than I thought I could. And time doesn't tick in my ears like I thought it should. So I'm standing here today and saying, come what may. 'Cause I've been down, down below, and I know, no, that's where I could go. But life is teaching me. Oh,
Oh my God.
thank you all so much for having me. Appreciate it.
That was incredible. That was amazing. Oh my goodness. I feel mesmerized by your talents. So thank you for sharing with us your amazing talents. I was just telling Catherine that I love Natalie Cole because of Nat King Cole. My favorite song is Unforgettable. So I just thought that was such a unique, like Iowan tie. But anyway, the next person coming up to speak is Lois Hoger. She is a longtime Perry community member. She's also a retired social worker. She's the co-founder and president of the Iowa Case Management, and she has worked with individuals of all walks of life and has helped them in their time of need. She has given back to her community. She currently volunteers at the Perry Food Pantry, serves on the Dallas County Hospital Board, and founded the Women of Wonder Coffee Group, just to name a few. Lois.
I'm not sure I know how to use this thing. Well, I am very honored and very humbled when they asked me to speak. But I'm going to address something to Catherine. Hey, you know what? We have something in common. I'm a singer too. Have you heard of Kathy and Friends? Kathy's sitting there in front of me. And one of my other singers is over here someplace volunteering. But you know, our crowd doesn't get immersed with us because they fall asleep. Because we only sing to nursing homes and assisted living. And my daughter suggested maybe you could sing with us. Kathy, what do you think of that idea? Thank you.
You're not referring her to a piano player?
Oh, do you play the piano? We're short of piano. Thank you, Catherine. Well, I'm looking outside this group and I really know quite a few of you. Well, Pastor Kim, hi! I didn't know you were here. I'm going to really concentrate on this theme, Give Today to Gain, because I think it is so important. And these are some of the words I'm going to concentrate. I think are important. Mentor. I know we have mentors out here. Leader. I know we have leaders. Small leaders, big leaders, you name it. And to me, this is the most important word in my vocabulary, working as a social worker, as an advocate. And you know what? I didn't learn what that word meant until I became a social worker. Man, that's an important word, especially dealing with women. So I have notes too, Catherine. But I want you to know a little bit about me. Now think of this. I was born 1 month after World War II ended. I am not young. Just think of that. And that is significant because you know my parents were teenagers and young adults during the war. And that left an impression. I know it did. I'm going to talk specifically about my mother because I was a teenager and young adult during the Vietnam War. And there might be some of you that experienced the same. And that experience still is with me. I mean, I can't forget what that was like in being that age. I also have a unique experience of living in northeast Nebraska. You have any idea where that is? No. Okay. Yankton, South Dakota was maybe 50 miles north of us. Sioux City's maybe 45 miles east of us. And then we have that big community of Omaha, maybe 70 miles south. And there was nothing west of us in 1940s. I mean, little towns, basically. And also, I am a third generation of those immigrants that came over from Germany. And I think there was some political unrest and poverty. They came to Watertown, Wisconsin, and Eustisford. Have you heard of those names? Oh, yeah. And they came between 1856 and 1860. And for some reason, that community became a big German Lutheran. That's also significant in my life, community. So I was born south of Wisner, Nebraska, and that's significant to the German Lutherans, very. Because the only diversity we had in that big community were those Irish, Catholic, McGills, McGuires, and McGinnises that lived north of Wisner. And there were some Swedish people living there. You know, that was there in the 40s. And I thought those Irish people must really be weird when I'd hear them talk. But that boundary, and that was slowly breaking as by the time I went to school, I could actually talk to those McGuires and McGinnises and have fun with them. So I had a mother who told me she was the only one in her class of 10 kids in a German Lutheran school that could go to high school. And she said, in order for me to go to high school, I had to live in the town of West Point. And that made her pretty independent. But then when she got out of high school, she didn't marry like most of her friends did. She wanted to serve her country. And last night, Lou and I, my husband Lou, we pulled out one of her memories. And she helped build and work in this secret air base located south of West Point, Nebraska. And she never really talks much about it, but in case we were ever invaded, this military base would be the basis for the planes coming in and out. And she said they designed it to look like a farm. The enemy would never guess that's where they are. She also worked for the defense company for that county and helped them do blackouts. And she said we only had one practice blackout, and it was a disaster because somebody got killed. The lights, there must have been one light stop, and it wasn't working, and two cars collided, and one of the people in that car worked for civil defense, and they never did that again. And then she worked with the rationing company. Well, anyway, she got married. She married my dad, and they were pretty progressive farmers. She went from one German community to another, and she wanted to break loose from some of those German traditions. I know she was the first one that decided, I am not sitting on the side with the women in this church, and Warren is not sitting with the men, we're sitting together as a couple. And I guess people stared at her. Then there was a point where she said, I'm wearing slacks to church. I don't care, it's cold out there. And she wanted to be a voice in that German Lutheran community, that women are seen and not heard. That was impossible. She somehow, to make a long story short, she skirted around that, became involved in a women's group. She was a state president. She was an international officer for a while. And she finally got her job of speaking. Oh, Mindy, you would love this. She was on a speakers bureau in 3 states, and she had my dad drive her around. And you know, I never heard her speak, but I was told she was a really, really good speaker. So that's what I observed, and I knew there were no barriers to me. I could do just about anything. If I fell on my face, I fell on my face, and she just didn't criticize me. We just picked up and went. So, you gotta remember, I have this pretty strong mom in this conservative German community. I chose to go 400 miles away from school, from home, to college in Kansas. A junior college in Kansas. I had never been outside of Nebraska. I had never set foot in Kansas, but I went there. It was a good experience. I became a military spouse. That was not in my DNA, right, Lou? Guess what? I became a pastor spouse. Whoa! I had no experience doing this, and I always said, what you see is what you get, right, Lou? Yeah. And then we moved to Iowa. We've lived in lots of states, just like you, Catherine. And I announced to the family, I'm going back to school. I got to get my degree. I looked at Simpson College and ended up going to Grandview, which I think is a really cool school. Commuted. And before I graduated, and I was in my 40s by this time. Oh, I forgot, I became parents. Oh, that's a very important one, to 2 beautiful children. And this is the hardest thing I've ever done in all my life. I became a foster parent. I don't know if we have any foster parents out there. It is not easy. It is so hard because these children come to you broken. They're so broken. I became an adopted parent also to one of my foster kids. So anyway, I went back to school, and before I graduated, I had a job working in case management with disabled adults in southern Iowa. And I went to the Drake Library to figure out what case management was. I had no clue what you did in case management. So me and another gal, Judy, started this company from scratch. And we had John and Harvey, who were our investors, who wanted to get it going. We grew. We doubled in size. And then they hired 2 more women, and that's significant. And maybe by 1990, this was in 1989, when we started doing this, and there were funds available in the state to do this. But in 1990, John and Harvey came to us. Listen to this. This country bumpkin from Wisner, Nebraska. They said, we want you 4 women to buy our company and start it again. Oh, I was president of a company that tripled in size. I hadn't any management experience, but I'm kind of like Catherine. I went into it, and if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. Because I saw my family members. I had lots of mentors on this journey. Do this. And I did it for a while. It was a good investment, and then the state kind of changed some of the programs. Anyway, I moved, and then you won't believe what I did. Moved up to Manson, Iowa. I looked for an employment. By this time, I was a social worker, a bachelor social worker. The only thing really available that hit me, well, you think I can do it? I'm going to be a sexual assault counselor. Whoa! Wow. Now, I met some sexual assault people when I was working with disabled adults. I had no clue what they went through. I worked out of Fort Dodge. I worked with the prostitutes that came out of Chicago. I worked with the women living in the country with hardly any support systems available. By the way, I got that job thanks to Jana Greeno, and I didn't realize she was such a supporter of getting services going for women, especially sexual assault victims. And because of her, she made sure money was available. And I don't even know who she worked under. Maybe Jimmy Carter or somebody, I don't know. So I got to meet the worst of the worst in Fort Dodge. I got to meet the crooked police officer, the crooked attorneys. One attorney would never like me to come in his courtroom because he knew the judge would know I'm dealing with domestic violence people. And to be real honest, I burned out on that. I was, dreaming the dreams they told me. And victims of sexual assault only tell you the tip of the iceberg. They only tell you what they think you can handle. So I have no idea. I have an idea what some of them went through. Well, anyway, so I did this, burned out, worked with disabled adults, in the human service field, if anyone's in this, you float around a lot. Your money's available here, your money's not available there. So I moved to Perry. Met some really wonderful people there. I ended my career in hospice, of all things. I loved it. And I stopped being a social worker. I did not want to carry a pager. I did not want to be on call anymore. Because let me tell you, when you're on call with sexual assault victims, you come in at 1 o'clock in the morning, or 2 o'clock, or 3 o'clock, and you might as well plan on staying there for a few years. So that's my journey. But what I learned from that journey is, and that this is the message I want you to all remember, I wouldn't have taken that journey if it wouldn't have been for that first mentor. She was really strong in my life, but there were other women along the way. And you don't even know if you're a mentor. I know some of you are strong mentors in this world. I know you, I know some of you. And that took me on this journey to something I never dreamed I would ever do. Then I learned this thing about leaders. Now, you don't want to burn yourself out, because I'm doing a self-care class, right, Kimberly? Yes, we're learning how to take good care of ourselves. But sometimes you gotta step up. I mean, there's a void, maybe it's in your neighborhood and somebody had a fire or they're dealing with a death or something. You step up, get it organized, be a leader. Don't be afraid to take that chance. And let me tell you, there's some things in leadership I'm not very good at. Then the last thing that I'm gonna talk not a lot about, but this word. Women have a voice, some do, some have no voice. When I worked with domestic violence and sexual assault survivors, I was working for women. That was in the 90s, that their voice was not heard at all. I can't say it's being heard very much now either, in the climate that we have. But when I worked with disabled adults, the only person that was their voice were their parents. And I worked with the adults, and their parents were dying. And they were wondering, who's going to take up the slack? So that's why I'm here. And it's just really a privilege to see you women. I know most of you, and there's just beautiful people in this crowd. But I want to introduce you to the table in front of me. It's a special table. My husband came, Lou, and I have his socks on. It has a picture of his face. Didn't I showed it to you this morning because he walks with me a lot. He rolls his eyes a lot with me. We high-five ourselves sometimes. The journey's been really wonderful. But I also have two beautiful women with me. First is my daughter, Amy. You want to wave? Poor Amy had Grandma Sylvia, Mom Lois, Auntie Helen. Pretty strong people, but you know what? She walked her own way and is doing her own journey. And I know she's a mentor. I know she's a leader. I know she's an advocate. But then my son married this marvelous woman over here, Megan. I thought my family was strong. Holy cow, your family of women are powerful. Is that a good word to describe it, Megan? Her grandma, they're Quakers, Quaker women. They walk the walk. They don't talk it, they walk it. If something needs to be done in Africa, they get it organized. They go over as a couple sisters and a mom. and do it. So my grandchildren will walk the walk also, I'm 100% sure. But thank you, it's a privilege to be with you. God bless you. I got to know this beautiful woman here. She has come to the food pantry several times and promoted us or whatever, demoted us. She is wonderful. I've seen her do her work in person, and she is very much respected in that Channel 13 community.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Speaking of someone who's very incredible and talented is Ms. Ruby Herrera, who's also a Perry native, so let's give it up for Ruby. She's an community leader. She's taught Spanish at Des Moines Public Schools for 17 years. She teaches Latinos in Action, a leadership class at Roosevelt High School. She's also an adjunct professor at Drake University, teaching medical Spanish. And her goal is to create opportunities in healthcare and to help understand the lived realities of Latinos, patients, and their families. She's also shared her stories of success and struggles in a publication called The Ones I Bring With Me. She also recently received a DMAC Impact Award last year. So welcome, Ruby.
All right, is it my turn to adjust the mic? I think it's good, right? Again. No, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna use that voice. Yes, it's such a pleasure being here today. And I'm the third speaker. I'm finding so many connections, Catherine and Louis. The connection, I'm thinking, regardless of where we come from or different languages, we find a thread. As women, we connect in many ways. And before I begin officially, I want to ask you a question. Think of one woman who changed your life. Maybe it was your mother, maybe your daughter, a friend, a neighbor. Now imagine, do you have that woman in your mind? Yes. Now imagine she had to decide if she was too tired, was she too afraid, or too discouraged to keep giving. Would you be the same person today? That is the power of women. When one woman gives courage, yes, opportunity, or love, someone else gains a future. Today I want to tell you about a woman who gave everything she had so that I and others could gain a life we never imagined. Her name was Maria Teresa Diaz Herrera. She was my mother. And they say that if you want to know the future of a community, you should look at the dreams of its women. This story begins in the mid-1960s in a small town in Michoacán, Mexico. There was a girl named Maria, my mother, and like most girls were told, their place was in the kitchen. But my mother, she was a climber. She used to scale to the tallest tree in town, not for sport, but for the view. She would climb to the very top, and with books her father brought from Mexico City, from his travels. Feeling untouchable, there she was, and free to dream. People told her it wasn't ladylike. They said, girls shouldn't be up there in that tree. But from the top of those trees, she learned a lesson she passed down to me. Nobody is going to rescue you but yourself. So you better be brave. Get up and advocate for yourself. So here's to the climbers. I want to start to acknowledge the climbers in this room. If you have ever been told that something wasn't for you, or if you have climbed a metaphorical tree just to get a clear view of your own potential, would you please give me a thumbs up? Look around, yes. something. Many of us are afraid, but we still take that leap of faith. We are a room full of women who weren't afraid of heights. My mother was a pioneer. And in 1968, she became the first woman in her family to graduate from 6th grade. Wow. 6th grade. She begged her father for that chance, promising her chores wouldn't fall behind. She gave her labor to gain her education. But giving to gain often comes with a heavy price. I was born in California, and one of my earliest memories is the sunny strawberry fields of Watsonville. And in the distance, I saw men in uniform running after the pickers. I was 5 years old, rooted to the ground in fear, until my babysitter grabbed us and said, "Kids, run. Run for shelter." Shortly after that, my parents made the most agonizing sacrifice a mother can make. Because of their current immigration status at the time and my school schedule, I was only accepted to kindergarten for half a day. They realized they couldn't keep me with them and still give me a full-time education. So we went on a vacation to Mexico, and when I woke up, after a couple weeks of being there, I woke up and they were gone. They left me in Mexico with my grandparents so I could go to school. My mother gave up a few years of motherhood so I could gain a future. We often talk about women's contribution as a giving time or money. But let's be honest, sometimes women give their very hearts. We give our presence so the next generation can stand on our shoulders. Now things began to brighten up in 1986 with the amnesty, and eventually we found our way to Iowa. We arrived in Perry July 4th, 1995, and my cousin Eddie, say hola. Do you know Eddie? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Just verifying. Who is really, he's here today, and he grew up more like, we're cousins, but I feel like more like brothers and siblings. He greeted me, and I don't know if you remember this moment, Eddie, but you greeted me, because his family came June of 95, and we arrived in July, and so he was experienced with Perry by then. And so he greeted me and offered an offer I'll never forget, and he said, "Hey, do you want me to give you a grand tour of Perry?" Okay. Now you have to understand, I'm a city California girl, and I looked at this Leave It to Beaver, neighborhood, and I thought, what can you possibly show me? I mean, there's 2 streets, got it. But then he looked at me and said, oh, no, you wait. Perry has more churches than people. Everybody's Catholic? What do you mean? So coming from a place, again, growing up in a small town, well, that's a city in Watsonville, was mostly Mexicanos, Mexican Chicanos, and Catholic. And so besides the family down the street that was Jehovah's Witness, I was like, oh, I was stunned by the fact there were so many churches. And I was like, really? That's exciting. But in Perry, there's one thing I really learned valuable, and something I carry with me in my work in doing public schools every day is the sense of community and safety. And I also want to acknowledge to my female cousins and their daughters and my friends. We grew up and the adventures. I would need another 30 minutes just to talk about that and how they gave so much and how together we, adventures. I'll just talk about that for now. And so with that, I see that there's such a privilege to grow up in a small town and with a value, again, to say that it's the sense of community and safety. It's big. And to a woman's contribution, I also want to say that it doesn't stop when your body's hurt. After years in the fields, for example, for my mom, her body started hurting. She had suffered a back injury. She could have stopped instead at age 40. She went back to school for office work. I watched her transform. She traded her field clothes for professional suits. She walked with a new confidence. And she discovered a working woman's secret, the lunch break. So when she went with her friends, she discovered a new Chinese restaurant, and she said, let's go, just the two of us. It's a great place. I'm like, how about my dad and brother? No, leave them. So yeah, they ditched us for McDonald's right across the street, and they wanted to supersize their number 3, and we wanted to supersize our experience. And that was our bonding time. And she showed me that it was never too late to reinvent who you are. Now, my mother carried many lessons with her throughout life, but there was one phrase she repeated often. In Spanish, she would say, preguntando se llega a Roma. It means, by asking, you eventually arrive at Rome. If you don't know something, basically what she said, ask. Don't be afraid. If you need help, ask. If there is an opportunity for you that you want, go find it. And if there is a door that doesn't open, knock harder. You know what? Knock it down. Yeah, preguntando se llega a Roma. Eventually you will get to Rome, but ask, do not just stand still. Opportunities don't just fall on your lap, you go get them. And because many times it's not only about what you know, but who you know. So preguntando se llega a Roma, that phrase meant so much to our family that years later my daughter tattooed it. As a reminder to never let fear silence her in curiosity. Or never let her fears silence her curiosity. And for my daughter's Sweet 15 or quinceañera, on her birthday we decided to travel to Rome. Yeah, because for 3 generations of women in our family, it was, my mother, my daughters, and myself, it was our dream. Rome had always lived in our imagination. And when we finally arrived and stood there together, I remember we cried happy tears. Not quiet tears, but the kind of tears that come from years of dreaming and believing, because it was in that moment we realized something. My mother had already been there long before we arrived. She had walked those streets in her imagination while reading books at the top of a tree in Michoacan. I remember calling her from Rome and I told her everything. We told her the fountains were as beautiful as she had imagined them. The churches were ringing bells as magnificent as she had described. We wanted her to know something very important. Her courage has taken us there. And here's something I know with absolute certainty. The day we stood in Rome, 3 generations of women arrived there together. In one body, in one spirit, and in one carrying us forward. And a mother's dream does not end with her life. It continues through the courage of her daughters and the stories that we tell. Now, I want to go to the next part of this to lighten up a little bit. She was funny too. She never forgot. She never forgot her birthday. She never forgot where she came from, and she was famous for her thoughtful cards. One year, for her cousin David's birthday, she wrote the card exactly as she heard the name pronounced in English. She wrote, "Happy birthday, David." Because in Spanish we say David, but in English it's David, and so she spelled it D-A-Y-B-E-D. Happy birthday, David. David. We do. But here's the thing, we we never laughed at her. We said we laughed with you, Mom. We were laughing with you, because the honest truth is there was one thing we got that would get under her, my mother's skin. It was someone belittling an accent. She taught me that an accent is just proof that you are brave enough to learn, brave enough to fail, and brave enough to keep going. That's right, an applause for that. So with this, I also want to acknowledge that the teacher and me, is gonna get you to do something. I want you to take 5 seconds to turn to the lady next to you. You might shake her hand, tap her on the shoulders, and say, thank you for being brave. Thank you for being here. Because as women in every room, we need to acknowledge that. Thank you for being here. Right now, let's go. Hugs. Love it. High fives. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Feel the love. Again, thank you for being brave, because every woman in this room is carrying a story of courage. And we might not see it yet, we might not know it yet, but we do. And as an educator who has served in Des Moines for 17 years, I see my mother in every student who walks into Roosevelt High School. I see her in the Heritage Spanish learners, in the Latinos in Action Leadership members that I teach, and who, I'll be honest, I learn more from them than they're from me. I admire them so much. And all of them are reclaiming their voices. And here is your homework. Okay, ready? So number 1, be the tree climber. Okay? Don't let anyone tell you that is ladylike, that is not ladylike or appropriate for your age or station in life. Keep climbing until you get the view that you want. And if you need, yes, girl, yes, and if you need to pivot, and I'm in that stage as well in my life, if you need to pivot, do it. Where you're starting is not from scratch. It's from experience. Again, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. So pivot with all the faith and all the love. 2, protect the accent. Whether it's a literal accent or just a different way of thinking, don't let anyone belittle someone else's growth, including yours. With that, what I'm saying, encourage the failure. That's where the learning happens, so fail forward. And 3, invest in your inner circle. My parents invested in real estate here in Iowa and faith all their life, but their greatest investment was family, familia. Loyalty is what gives human their real sense of worth. So in closing, this is my mother's birthday month. She passed away April of 2022, but she is here. She is in all the strawberry photos that I have, and all the birthday photos that I have, and birthday cards that we still giggle at. And she's in every, again, day bed card we still cherish. And today I honor her strength, her faith, her sacrifice, and yes, her amazing tacos that she made for me. And so, just taking a moment for myself also to say, Mom, thank you for your books, for the bravery, for the Chinese restaurant lunches, and the view from the top of that tree. Te quiero mucho, Mama. Happy heavenly birthday. And to all of you, remember that regardless of where you started, whether it be California, Mexico, Nebraska, or Perry, you belong here. We are stronger together. And thank you for your time, for your stories, for your courage, for your joy. And does anybody want extra credit? Yeah? All right. Extra credit. Now you have to go call or text, Snapchat, whatever you do, social media, snap that person, text them. Who is the well, first of all, think about who's the person that makes you laugh the most. And send them that text. Want to meet up for happy hour? Get it booked so it can happen for you. And keep laughing and finding joy in life. Thank you.
To a microphone, I am impressed by your stories. So it's amazing. I just want to share something that Ruby shared with me back when I just graduated college. I just graduated Iowa State University after the pandemic, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm scared. I got this internship at KCCI, and she welcomed me into her classroom at East High School, and she took me out for lunch, and I was just sharing my concerns. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I just graduated. Life just comes at you like a train, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't feel like imposter syndrome, 100% real when you're just graduated. And I'll never forget what Ruby said to me, and she's like, just walk in and be like Selena.
Yes.
Have the confidence.
Yes.
And you know what? I carry that with me every day because of you. So thank you. Thank you. Another story too is that I've covered stories of Latinos in action at my work at WHL 13 News, and seeing Ruby in the classroom, she's so powerful. I love listening to you talk and teach. So thank you so much. So. Our next speaker is our keynote speaker, and it is Miss Darcy Molesbury, right? Or Molesby, sorry. Molesby, thank you. And she is a fifth-generation farmer, storyteller, and advocate. She's also an author. She has written books on rural Iowa history, including her newest book, Iowa Agriculture, A History of Farming, Food, and Family, from the History Press and Classic Restaurants of Des Moines and Their Recipes. She hopes to inspire people to dream big, revitalize rural America, and change the world for the good. Please welcome Darcy.
I see what you mean about the mic, Kathy.
Yeah.
We'll make it work. Trust me, I've done interviews and all kinds of things in my work as a journalist. I've been in hog barns and combine caps. This is nothing.
We'll send a complaint to the mayor.
Yeah, that's right.
Easy crowd.
It's an easy crowd. I love it. Well, so when Catherine said usually she's talking around men, I can relate to that. Farming is most definitely, or has been, a male-dominated industry, so it's rare that I'm in a room full of women. That's exciting. It's great to be here. It's great to, and like Catherine said, it's great to see the men who support us too, so thank you for being here. Yes, give me a hand. And Lois, your story inspired me with one of my favorite phrases that well-behaved women rarely make history. So I hope nobody in here is too well-behaved. And Ruby, your story, I mean, I was just sitting over there taking notes. I mean, I just can't stop taking notes because it's like, where's this going to land? Where's, you know, for Catherine, it might be a song. For me, it might be a column. It might be something for a book. I don't know, it's all grist for the mill. But I'll be honest with you, I was really feeling overwhelmed by the time this morning rolled around. It was a busy week. Was anybody feeling a little overwhelmed or just stressed out this week for whatever reason? Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one. So I'll tell you, on Tuesday I was over in Tabor, Iowa. Has anyone ever heard of Tabor? Yeah, extreme southwest Iowa. Maybe some of you heard it when Oprah's book club had a book called Gilead and talking about the Underground Railroad, and she lightly references Tabor. So I was there doing research because one of my current books is with the Madison County Historical Society
talking about the Underground Railroad and the freedom seekers who came through Winterset and other parts of Madison County on their journey. And so we went to Tabor because that's where a lot of those folks were starting their journey. They were coming up out of Missouri. Isn't it weird that Missouri, hard to think, but it was a slave state back then. And there were even slaves coming out of the Nebraska Territory. Who thinks of Nebraska as a place where there was slavery? But there was, and so they started that journey to freedom, and they came through places like Tabor. And our guide took us out to the cemetery in Tabor, and it was amazing because she was showing us these new markers that have just gone up on the Underground Railroad conductors that are buried in that cemetery. There's about 20 of them, because this was very much a town bent on helping all people be free. And I asked this guide, I said, when I talk about the Underground Railroad, it seems like people get confused sometimes. They don't know what it was. Or a dear sweet lady in my hometown of Lake City in west central Iowa, she said, oh, that ran right behind my house. Yeah. I didn't have the heart to tell her right at that moment, no ma'am, that was just the Chicago Northwestern back then. We'll get to this. We'll get the back straight eventually. But I said to this tour guide, I said, in Tabor, I bet everybody knows this amazing history and what role you played in the Underground Railroad, right? No, it was actually in danger of being forgotten, and so God bless people like her that keep that history alive. I mean, it's just like, Ruby, when you were talking about honoring your mother's history. If we don't keep the stories alive, who else does?
Exactly.
Right? The songwriters, the family historians, you all have a really important role. And so to see these little markers on these 20-some graves, they're just a little circular marker, and it's got 3 links in a chain, and the middle link is broken, symbolizing freedom. And I thought, wow, that is so incredible that they are keeping that history alive. I loved it. And so then Thursday, I was in Council Bluffs, and I gave a talk to a group of American Marketing Association folks, the Iowa and Nebraska chapters. And I was there to talk about storytelling. And that's, talk about the imposter syndrome. I've heard that pop up from time to time. I call myself Iowa's storyteller in addition to the writing and the authoring books and the farming and all this stuff I do, simply because I didn't know what else to call myself. And people would say, oh, you write for the newspaper. Well, I do, but it's just a tiny sliver of what I do. And I thought, it took me 3 years probably to come up with what's a catch-all that kind of encapsulates everything that I am. And I thought, well, I'm a storyteller. And then I thought, well, who am I to claim that I'm Iowa's storyteller? And then I thought, well, who am I not to claim that? Why not? Right? Not? Yeah, right. So if you feel like you can claim a title, who's to tell you you can't do it? Please do it. We need your talents. And so as I'm talking to these folks about marketing and storytelling and whatnot, that's a tough crowd because it's a lot of really talented communicators, and sometimes communicators get a little attitude, I'm not going to lie, and they think they've got all the skills and everything, and I could see by the looks on some of the faces that they're like, they didn't say it, but you could see it, like, challenge me. Bring it on, lady. Tell me something I don't know. But I don't go into these things thinking I know it all, because I don't. And what was really great in the Q&A, there was a gal that worked for a law office, and she was asking, how do I tell stories when I'm not allowed to share the names? And so I threw out this idea of a case study format that I use, but she said, yeah, I've tried that, it just doesn't work. And so fortunately, there was another gal, she's a data gal of all things. She's not a storyteller, she deals with data. But she's into storytelling because she knows that if I just dump data on you, it's going to go more often than not. And so she said, what I do is I take that data and I make a composite person. So-and-so is about 37 years old and they drive a Cadillac and here's their life. It's all factual, but it's not really one person. And she said, I tell people right up front, that is not a real person, but it is a composite of the data. Then you can get into the storytelling. And I thought, thank you, because she had knowledge that I didn't have. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. She gave a 10 million time better answer than I ever would have. But you got to be humble. I don't have all the answers, but the people around do. I mean, if we put our heads together collectively, that's where the magic happens. And to me, it's about progress, not perfection. Any recovering perfectionists in the room? Right? I'm one of them. I don't know if my recovery is very good because I still hit it pretty hard and try and be perfect with everything. But when you get to my age, you realize life is not perfect. And you know, it really shouldn't be perfect. I remember years ago someone told me about this idea of how the Amish sew a quilt. And they said they deliberately leave a flaw in the quilt, even though these are master seamstresses, master quilters, because it reminds them nobody can really be perfect, not on this planet. And I thought, right? I see some heads shaking. Right? And it kind of reminds me, all these little stories kind of remind me of that great Mother Teresa quote, that not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And so you think about that too, just like those people in Tabor, even the original, the women don't get their story told. Those ones from the 1850s, they're diminished to, Sarah was so-and-so's wife, or she helped so-and-so with this, but the sacrifices they must have made and the bravery that they lived to do these things. So could they change the world being a woman in 1850 in Tabor, Iowa? No, but they did what they could. And you put all that energy together and it does change the world. And you know, I found this, do we have any thrift shoppers here? Oh yeah, I'm all about the thrift. My mom and I are hitting Village Bargain Shop in Perry and Jefferson before we go. So I found this weird little bag the other day in Goodwill in Fort Dodge. It says life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. And it's really kind of an odd thing. I mean, it's cool, but it's really heavy. It's heavy. It's like a gigantic doorstop or something. But I thought, man, isn't this so perfect for what we're talking about here? And I want you to pass it around. I want you to feel how heavy it is. And then I want you to feel how nice it is when you pass that weight on to someone else. Nice word. Right? We're not trying to dump our burdens on other people, but it's just a reminder we can't do this alone. It's just way too hard. So don't try to do this alone. Find your tribe, find your helpers. And that got me thinking about a talk that I give through Humanities Iowa. I'm one of their speakers because of their my historical books I've written. But they also have a new thing called Open Book. And when they approached me about Open Book, I wasn't quite sure what to think about it. But the premise is we are all a book. We all are a bunch of stories wrapped up in a human body. So we're all walking books with amazing stories to tell. And we've heard that this morning, haven't we? And they said, would you be willing to go to libraries and schools and whatnot and be part of this open book experience? So I've done 2 of them now. And I got to thinking, how do you condense a lifetime's worth of experiences into something that takes maybe 20 minutes? So I kind of framed my idea around the power of the assist. So it's a lot like give to gain, the theme today. And what really started me on this idea was there was a volleyball player in our small school. We're a small rural area up in west central Iowa. So if you've ever heard of South Central Calhoun, that's our school district. And there was a gal who was a high school volleyball player last year, and she was excellent, and what she was known for was not all the kills and the spikes and all the things that are kind of flashy in volleyball. She had more assists than anybody in school history, if I recall right. And this made me think of something that I heard at the Iowa Pig, what do they call that? Not the Iowa Pork Congress. It was like the Iowa Pig Fair, but that's not what it was. See, I'm telling you folks, when you're an ag journalist, you go to cool places. Oh, I know what it was. It was Iowa Swine Day. So it was covering Iowa. So I know, that's right up there with a pig fest. So oddly enough, they usually have really inspiring keynote speakers at these meetings. And so I'm sitting there in Ames. This would have been the summer of '24, I believe. And they had a guy come down from Minnesota, and he was a sports nut, and he was talking about all things sports, which is a little out of my realm. But he talked about the power of the assist. And he gave the example of the great Wayne Gretzky. We've probably all heard of Wayne, the famous hockey player, and the whole Don't skate to where the puck is at, skate to where it's going to be. And we've all heard that, but then he told a story about Wayne that I hadn't heard before. And he said, you know, Wayne was high profile for all his wins, but he should have been even more high profile for all his assists, because he had a tremendous record there. And they said with an assist, okay, let's back up. Wayne, when he's scoring big, Wayne is getting all the attention, right? The focus is on Wayne. He's the superstar. But a team is not just one person, right? So when Wayne was at his best, he was doing an assist so that other people could score as well. So when you help other people, the give to gain idea, not only do you help yourself, but you also make a lot of other people happy too. And I was reminded of this when I was at a Farm Bureau meeting in Spencer just a couple of weeks ago. It's called Acres of Opportunity. And they had the owners of Pepper Harrow Farm. Yeah, oh yeah. Anybody been out to Winterset to Pepper Harrow? It's amazing, isn't it? The beautiful lavender farm and all the flowers there. And they were talking about how, well actually it was right this time of year. How many of you remember that terrible tornado that hit right around March 5th, I believe, 2022? That barreled right through Pepper Harrow Farm. And at that point it was just getting good. You know, they start this farm from nothing and they were building up all this beautiful flower farm and had a great business. And then this tornado comes through and destroys almost everything. And she said it was so hard to ask for help, because even though everyone wanted to help, she said until you're in that position, it's so, have you ever felt that? I know I felt it. Even when you desperately need help, it's hard to ask for help. I don't know if it's pride, I don't know what it is, but it's hard. And she said what turned us around is that someone told us, please accept the help, because helping makes people feel good, right? We all know that good feeling of helping others. And they said, if you don't accept that help, you're denying other people the opportunity to feel good and to feel worthy. And I thought, wow, I'd never thought of it that way before. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So they did accept the help. They're back on their feet again. They're going to have Lavender Fest this year. It's all good. And I know that when Ann and Carol reached out about this speaking opportunity, they said, share some stories of some amazing women throughout history. You know, those well-behaved women that don't follow the rules. They're the ones who are not well-behaved, I should say, that make history. And I was thinking about Jessie Fields Shamba. So, anybody in here heard of 4-H? Of course, you know what 4-H is. She was a lot like me, even though she was born in 1881. She was born in Page County, so down in southwest Iowa. And she was one of those kids that's kind of like a dad's girl. Catherine, you kind of alluded to that you were dad's right-hand man. I mean, I was taught to be a man. Those were my dad's words, so I take that for what that's worth. But yeah, she was one of those that just was not going to take no for an answer when people told her, Ruby, kind of like your mom, you know, don't climb that tree, it's not ladylike. Well, she wanted to hang around with her dad because he went to farm meetings. And they learned stuff, and it was cool stuff, and it was not just sewing and cooking. That is all well and good, but she was interested in farming. So by the time she's 12, she's hanging out with Dad at these farmers' institutes. These are before there was the extension service, and before it was normal for farm kids to have the chance to go to college. They brought the college to you, is what it was. And so it was unheard of to have a 12-year-old girl tagging along with Dad, but she did it. Her family supported her. She went on to big things. By the time she's in her early 20s, she was not just a country school teacher in Page County, but she also was a superintendent. And she did what we today would call STEM education, with hands-on learning, you know, the science and engineering and all that. She looked at these farm kids in these country schools and said, my goodness, why are we teaching them Latin and all these things that maybe are a little bit more high-powered than what they're really going to need for life in rural Iowa? Not that the classical education is bad, but why are we totally overlooking the basics that they're going to need to have a good life on the farm too? And so she started gardens, at school gardens, and she started having opportunities for the girls to enter ears of corn, for example, in the county fair. It wasn't just for boys anymore. And so all these ideas of the hands-on learning, and we can all just have a richer life growing where we're planted, That was the root of 4-H. She wasn't necessarily the founder of 4-H, but all those ideas came together as she grew older, and she kind of set the stage for what we now know as 4-H. Girls basketball, we're right in basketball tournament season right now. Amazing we don't have a blizzard, right? Someone asked me, because I'm the board president of our local museum in Lake City, and I'm a history geek, always have been. Someone asked me recently, when did Lake City get its first girls basketball team? I can't find an exact answer, but I do see it starting to appear in the record in 1910. Isn't that amazing? Think about that. Think about where women were at in 1910. Anywhere else, they were denied the opportunity to play sports at school. I mean, you didn't even have girls' sports teams. Give me a break. I mean, to show you how crazy this is, even at that time, it was not socially acceptable for women to go into restaurants unaccompanied, without a man, without their brother, their father, their uncle, some male presence. And I just got a press release. It's weird, when you're a writer, you get press releases from all over, but I just got one from some New York press agent talking about Delmonico's, the famous restaurant in New York, how they are celebrating that milestone for Women's History Month, that Delmonico's was one of the first to allow unaccompanied women to come into the restaurant. So I write about these things at the Des Moines level in my Classic Restaurants of Des Moines book, but I remember when I discovered that little tidbit, I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Women were denied, or you would, even if you were bold enough to knock the door down and be the wild woman in the restaurant unaccompanied, your reputation was trashed. It was not good. So look how far we've come. So shout out to the small schools that saw that how can we deny these farm girls, because it's largely farm girls coming to school in a place like Lake City, Iowa. How can we expect them to be working on the farm doing a man's work and then say, oh, you're too delicate to play sports? That's ridiculous, right? But my mom's here today. She was Fort Dodge High, class of 1963. There was no girls basketball team in a bigger school like Fort Dodge for a long time, was there? Amazing, amazing. And even locally, I got to thinking, I'll grab my book here, some of the stories that I have gotten to tell through Dallas County history. So I used to live on Highway 141 over between Woodward and Granger, and I thought, this is, Dallas County hasn't had a history book for over 80 years. I should write one, I guess, even though I'm not from here. The hotel we're at, if you have ever heard of Betty May Harris, there's a Betty May Harris room here. Betty May was not really following the rules. She was a wild woman. There she is right up there. Look at that Tahitian sparkly dance outfit. She was a dance teacher. She played with the Ziegfeld Follies before coming back to the Midwest. She taught almost 40 years of dance here in Perry. Think of how many young women she inspired and empowered by being a dance teacher in little old Perry, Iowa. But isn't that cool? And here's another one for you. This name may not ring a bell, but Jackie Snyder. So if you've ever been down to the little town of Midburn, maybe you've just driven through, maybe you've been on the bike trail, and you've seen the big roller skate. If you haven't been to the big roller skate, I want you to go to Midburn and look at it, because it's really a neat tribute to what this was. So Jackie Snyder, she was not a native Iowan, but she married an Iowa farm boy, and she thought, you know what, we need a little bit more fun and excitement in Dallas County. And so she and some other folks got together. This was all volunteer, and from the 50s through the early 60s, they had a production called the Singing Wheels. And what they did is they put kids on roller skates, they put adults on roller skates, they had costumes, they had themes, they had the whole shebang every single year. It got bigger and better every year, and a town of 353 people, Midburn, Iowa, could attract almost 10,000 people to these two-day performances, which were usually held in early August. The roller rink is still there. It's an outdoor rink, so you can see that. And if you want, yes, do you have a story?
No, your daughter-in-law is here.
Oh, Jackie's daughter-in-law is here. Yes. Wonderful. Am I telling the story right? Okay.
3 nights.
3 nights. Thank you. 3 nights. See, that's what I love. Keep me honest here. Good to see you, by the way. I didn't see you sitting over there. So see, you can do big things in a small town, and sometimes I think that we don't always do a good job of telling kids that, frankly. I know it was not taught to me when I was growing up. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I'm a child of the 1980s farm crisis. Does farm crisis mean anything to any of you?
Yes.
I protested
Yes.
the very first time.
Did you? Okay, excellent. You know, as the historian in me, I weep when I find out that most history books today, in Iowa or elsewhere, if you talk 1980s history, you're lucky if there's a paragraph this big about the farm crisis. Because to most people it was irrelevant. The 80s were the go-go years, right? When people were making lots of money and things were great. But that was not my reality, right? And so nobody in my life ever, I don't want to say they actively discouraged me from sticking around in Lake City, Iowa, but there was certainly nobody championing it either. The unspoken message was, if you're bright, go to college, get a good education, and leave. And don't come back because we love you too much. It's too hard here. There's no future for you here. And I bought into that. I did what I was told. I wasn't the wild woman yet. And I worked in Des Moines for about 6 years out of college. It was okay. I worked for Farm Bureau and AgWeb.com and the Des Moines Convention and Visitors Bureau. But I was always an ag journalist, and I thought, you know, if I'm going to be real about this, I really shouldn't be hiding down here in Des Moines. It's convenient. It's a wonderful community. But I really feel like I need to be out there. As a guy who wrote about me, I'm in a book called The Well-Fed Writer, about how to make money as a writer. He called me the author in the land of drive-by tractors. So I decided I needed to be in the land of drive-by tractors, and so I did come back in 2006 with my husband in tow. So we sold our house down here on the 141 Diagonal and moved back home, and it's been good. And I think back to that theme I talked about, the power of the assist and this whole idea of give to gain. Had it not been for an FFA teacher, I just shared this story with the local newspaper. I was a sophomore in high school, and no way, shape, or how was FFA and ag on my radar screen. I was a band geek, I was a vocal person, you know, I was on the college prep track, and somehow, some way, that ag teacher, his name was Ed Ricks, he must have seen some talent in me. And I don't know who he cut the deal with. I should ask him, because he's still alive. I should ask him, how'd you do this? But all I know is that I got a deal presented to me, that if I could pass 10th grade biology tests, I would never have to go to class. And I could spend all my time in the ag room during that time slot. Now, if you're telling a 16-year-old kid they can legally cut class every day of the year, that's of course the answer is yes. So I went over there, and it was, in those days, we are not that far removed from the late 70s. It wasn't until sometime in the 70s girls were even allowed in FFA, believe it or not. Amazing. And in Lake City, girls just had not caught the bug. They just didn't do it. But around that time, this is because of the farm crisis and the rural depopulation, we are merging schools. We hook up with a little town called Lorville. There were about 4 girls from Lorville that were in FFA, 3 or 4. And I thought, well, I guess if they can do it, I could do it too. So it worked out, and I got to be on a team with all guys. We were the floriculture team. We did well, we studied hard, and we won at state, and we got to go to nationals, and we won silver at nationals. So for someone that was not even going to be in FFA, I thought, wow, if I could go this far with this and survive in a man's world, where else could I go? So that's what set me on this path, and I think if it hadn't been for that guy, now since then some people have said, well, you know, he did that just because he wanted to win. He wanted more talent so that his teams could win. And I said, yeah, that could be. I'm not saying he was a perfect man, but that's part of the power of the assist too. It can be almost a reverse negative that can turn out positive. I don't know what Ed's intentions were, but I do know that it worked out for good, and that's all that matters. And I think, you know, even now in my career today, and I hear these women, I get to talk to people that came of age during that time when it wasn't so enlightened. And like Beth Doran, she's from a little town not far from here called Beaver, Iowa. Anybody heard of Beaver? So she grew up on a farm over there. Beth's claim to fame, she was just inducted into the Iowa Cattlemen's Hall of Fame. And she had a very simple life. She just lived in Sioux Center, Iowa, way up in northwest Iowa for most of her career, being the feedlot extension specialist. So not a glamorous title, right? But very important to the cattlemen up there, and she just did her job exceptionally well. And I said, Beth, how did you even get a gig like that? Because you would have been coming of age in the 70s. Women were not feedlot extension specialists advising men about the best way to raise beef cattle, right? Oh, she said, I always showed cattle growing up, and I was in 4-H, but I did have to join the boys club in addition to the girls 4-H club so I could show cattle at the fair. But I thought I'd be on the traditional track. I went to Iowa State, graduated in 1975. My major was in home ec. And I thought I would get a job at Singer Sewing Machines or maybe Betty Crocker or something like that. Well, she found out a general home ec degree wasn't going to cut it. They wanted a specialist degree. So she said, well, I guess I'll teach. And she tried teaching for a while, but it just really wasn't a good fit. She said, I knew it was a terrible fit when I went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and those street smart city kids just ran all over me. So long story short, she gets an extension and ends up getting a PhD in animal science from Oklahoma State. And I said, Beth, did you ever face any blowback from men as you were trying to bust that door down, right? Because women just didn't do stuff like that. She said, yes. She was hesitant to tell me, but she fessed up and said, yes, there was one man that when it was either her master's or a PhD, he was not impressed. And he said, I'm just going to say it. I firmly believe a woman's place is in the kitchen.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but that didn't deter her. And I said, did you have mentors? You taught Lois, you talked about mentors. I said, did you have mentors who were more enlightened than that? And she said, oh yeah. And ironically, they were all men. And they were in that university system. And they said, you are the right person for the job. You can do this. And all that makes me think of another person that I just interviewed the other day. So I was up on the farm by Marathon, Iowa, the big town of Marathon. If you've heard of the 2025 Iowa Teacher of the Year, her name is Melanie Bloom. She's an ag teacher at Sioux Central, which is a very small rural school district up on the Buena Vista Clay County line. And I said, Melanie, you're just a little bit younger than me. How did you get the idea that you could be an ag teacher? And she said, well, I grew up on a farm. I was kind of Dad's right-hand man because it was the 80s farm crisis, and so we all hands on deck. But I thought I'd probably be a teacher. But then one day at school, because she kind of got recruited into FFA, maybe not as crazy as my story, but she got recruited in there, and the state FFA president comes in. And he was, I don't remember where he was from, but he was a guy. But he was asking all the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And when it came her turn, she said, oh, I think I'll be a teacher. And he said, have you ever thought about being an ag teacher? Because back then, you could count on one hand how many ag teachers there were in the state who were female. She said, I don't know. I never thought about it. And then she started wondering, why did I never think about it? It blends beautifully with who I am, my farm background and me being a teacher. And now, if you know anything about ag education in Iowa schools, it's something like 60 to 70% of the ag teachers today are female.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Kick down the door if you have to. Have the mentors. Have the people that show you the way. And sometimes it's as simple as probably that. I know she told me that guy. She has talked to him since then. And she said, "Do you remember when you asked me that question?" He said, "No, I don't even remember hardly being there." But it was the right question for the right person at the right time. So we don't know what we say that will hit and will be the thing that turns a life around. So we talked about imposter syndrome. We're passing around the little weight. It feels good to get that weight off your hands, doesn't it? It's a heavy little thing. And find the helpers. I mean, as we wrap up, and that is so important. The gift to gain, we have a lot to give, but don't be afraid to find those helpers. I think my mom can attest. What we're going through right now in our own family, we're doing a farm transition plan. That is one of the hardest things a family can do, because you're sitting there doing all the ugly stuff that a lot of people would like to put off till they're deceased and say, let the kids worry about it. Splitting up who exactly is going to get what farm. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of emotion. It's brutal. It's ugly. And at first, we struggled mightily because my dad did not do the estate planning that he should, and he left us in a heck of a mess. He did the best he could, but it wasn't enough. And we were just struggling, like our attorney passed away and all these things where nothing was working. But it's just kind of like what you said, Ruby. You keep at it and you keep going and you climb that tree. And now we've got a good attorney, we've got a good banker, we've got a good financial planner, and we're going to make it happen. So it's no small accomplishment. And so don't try and do it alone. It's way too hard. And you know, one final story, I was thinking about why we need each other to give to gain. So that open book I was telling you about, I got invited to give one of these open book presentations up at Storm Lake High School just about a week ago Friday. That's a really diverse high school, just like Perry. So we've got Hispanics, we've got Africans, we've got white kids, we've got everything, and we've got lots of Latinos. And so I didn't know what I was getting into because that's not my background. And I thought, I don't know if they'll take much value from what I have to say. And they were freshmen on top of it. I mean, God bless high school freshmen. Tough crowd, you know. And so I was talking about some of these same concepts. I told them my own story about the helpers along the way and the power of the assist. And God bless this gal named Karen Downing. She's the coordinator of this. She's a retired high school teacher from Des Moines. And she knows how to work with kids. And so she started working the room. And she says, does Darcy's story make you think of anything where you can think of the power of the assist? And of course, being freshmen, they're kind of slinking back, like, want to talk. But one Latino girl did speak up. And she said, yeah, you know, it made me think of working at the Dairy Queen in Storm Lake. And if you've ever been to the Dairy Queen in Storm Lake, Iowa, you know that it has the world's worst system for taking your order through the drive-thru. It's the worst microphone and everything on earth. And she said, I know it's terrible and it's so hard for us to hear the orders and people get really mad and are really nasty with us and I'm just a high school kid trying to make a buck and now these people are all mad at me. And she said one day this lady came through the drive-thru and they had the problem with the microphone. And this lady hands her it looks like a little business card, but it wasn't a business card. She said, honey, you're doing fine. And this girl looked at this card and it had a Bible verse on it. And it was Psalm 16:8. I know the Lord is always with me. I will not be shaken, for he is right beside me. And it makes me cry because I think we can all relate to that. I'm sorry, I don't like to get emotional. But when that girl told that story, you could just hear a pin drop. And I said to the teachers later, I said, did you know that it happened to her? And they said, we've never heard that story in our life. And I thought, that's what it's all about right there. So I would challenge all of you, be that person that gives to gain. Have the little card in your hand to give to people if that's what it takes. It's a wonderful tool. But when you leave, think about how can I be that one to give that next power of the assist. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy, Catherine, Lois, Ruby, and Darcy for sharing your stories. I would like to take a moment to share a little bit of my story. Most of you all know me. I'm from Perry. My roots started with my parents who came to the U.S. decades ago, and my mom came to Iowa here in 1995, September of 1995. And my mom, when Ruby asks, like, think of a strong woman, I think of my mom, of course. My mom has gone through so much in her life. And it's really interesting how time flies by. In 2013, or 2012, my dad was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, and she found out on her birthday. So yesterday, as of it's been a long time, so I don't know, from 2012 to 2026, it's been a long time. And my dad, a year later, passed away a couple days after my birthday in 2013. And my mom, my two sisters, and I were living life, struggling, trying to figure things out. Mind you, I'm the oldest, so the oldest has a lot of responsibilities. And I also am the caretaker. I'm the second parent figure in my family. I'm also the family planner. I also manage everything. So anything you can think of, I was that person.
And how old were you when that happened?
Oh yeah, I was 14. I just turned 14 after my dad passed away. And little 10-year-old me had this dream of like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to do something with my life. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I wanted to share stories. I wanted to work in the news. I wanted to tell stories of people in our community. And during one of the most challenging times of my life, I started thinking like, maybe I should be a meteorologist. Finds out that I'm not very good at math and or science. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to do something, that's really in my community, and I pursued journalism. And when my dad was in the hospital, my mom and I, and my good friend Lauren Benjamin at the time, Amy Benjamin, she went with us to the KCCI new studio, and one day I was just looking at these pictures of these headshots of these journalists, and I'm like, one day my picture's going to be up here. Well, I'm here, and I'm here to tell everyone that my picture is actually at work. I think about all the things that I've struggled with dealing, like how do I manage this life, right, of like adversity when I was just, 14 years old, and then life hits me again. My mom was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2015. So I'm, again, the caretaker, everything. And, life really does come through in many ways. And one of them is my village. So Jenny, Kelly, I can't tell where everyone's at, but thank you guys for helping me and just for supporting my family during one of the most toughest times of our lives. And it feels like so crazy now that I'm telling your stories at my work, which is kind of funny. And also, thank you to my high school teacher, my middle school teacher, Miss Wood in particular. Thank you for always believing in me, and for always being there, and just being the proof that, I am here, and I've had my success story, it's already written, and for always leaving that support imprint in my heart. And then my sisters, who have been amazing support systems, like they've always supported me in my crazy, work hours. I work the overnight shifts, and so every time I want to go out for a drink, she's like, oh, well, I can't until 5, so can't have much drinking or hanging out, coffee, and can't have caffeine past 5. And she's like, you know what, no worries, any time with you is the best. And it's so interesting to see them grown up, because I help raise them, so they're like my kids. And another thing too is that life moves forward, and to be able to be proof that challenges do happen and you can succeed, and there's something waiting for you on the other side, whether it's just your hobby or your career. It just feels so unreal to feel like my life has, in the matter of 27 years, I've lived quite a lot of lives. I feel like a cat. So I got like a lot of lives left in me, I think. But another person that I'd like to mention is my mom, again, because I say that my success story is my mom's. She's made a lot of sacrifices, and I couldn't have done it without her. And to drag her along to KCCI, Channel 5, and all these other stations, she's probably like, I'm just here for the ride. I'm just here to just see what this actually looks like. And to have her come with me to work, sometimes she's probably like, wow, like this is cool, I'm sure. And so, her resilience, her strength, that pulls me through. She's gone through so much in her life, and I truly am grateful for her. And yesterday was her birthday, so it's a great honor to be here to stand and talk about great women in my life, including my mom. And if I can't, I don't know if everyone's here from high school or middle school former teachers, so hello, thank you. But yeah, I think that's all I have. But like I said, finding people, finding helpers changes your life tremendously. Like Eddie Diaz and Ruby, thank you so much. And you guys have changed my life and have made such a difference in everything you do. Sorry, I had a little thing written. Everyone's is very engaging, and I gotta change mine up. I feel like I was giving a presentation on like, who is Cynthia Naranjo? And I'm like, that's me. Also, I wanted to mention that we hope that you all stick around for the luncheon. It's at it's $10. It's at noon, and they have really good food. My mom and I were very impressed with the food last year. They do really good spread. We also have some door prizes as well, if Carol wants to come up and share a little bit about that. But yeah, that wraps up our event. And Carol, if you want to say a couple things before we completely scatter.
Wow. You know, while I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, why are we all here? And in 2008, Dirk moved me to Kazakhstan. Some of you have heard this story. But then I did, excuse me, I did volunteer work at an orphanage there. And one day I walked in, and 17 little girls and boys, age 11 to 17, came running to me and said, "Happy Women's Day, Miss Carol, Happy Women's Day." I didn't know what Women's Day was. I'd never heard of International Women's Day. We moved back to Perry, Iowa in 2016, and March 8th was coming around, and I thought, I miss Women's Day. I'm going to miss it. And so, thanks to those people halfway around the world, we're all sitting here today. What a gift it has been to gather together today. Thank you for coming, thank you for listening, thank you for supporting, and thank you for celebrating the voices of 4 really remarkable speakers, Darcy, Catherine, Ruby, and Lois. Goodness, thank you, your stories were wonderful. And International Women's Day is really about connection and courage. And you all help bring that spirit to life. And I do have one last comment, and it's actually a quote from Maria Shriver that I read yesterday, and it made sense to me. In a world filled with headlines, heartbreak, triumph, and noise, that's a lot. You may find yourself asking what truly deserves your attention. We cannot carry every outrage or fix every story, but we can choose who we are becoming in the midst of it all. So thank you guys very much.
Then I thought I could, and time doesn't tick in my ears like I thought it should. So I'm standing here today and saying, come what may. 'Cause I've been down below, and I know that's where I could go. But life is teaching me